So guys, it's been a while since I've done a little bit of a vlog update on this channel, and I wanted to actually talk about the origin story of Jellycubes because it's a pretty insane story and only a few people really know everything that went behind the scenes. So I'm gonna go over exactly how Jellycubes started, some of the origin stuff that I've talked about a decent amount, but then also go into the story of the week that we actually launched the project. So yeah, definitely definitely an interesting story to come up here. I also want to apologize, I'm still pretty sick, but I was like, screw it, I've got to fight through this pain right now, make a little bit of a video update because it's been too long. And just to update you guys on where I'm at right now, I'm in Phog Nam. I'm absolutely butchering this name, but we're at this place called Memory Homestay. I'm leaving tonight, so I mean, good luck trying to find me here if you're after me right now. But yeah, we're in this Phog Na place, and it's known for having some pretty insane caves. And unfortunately, I haven't really been able to check out too much just because I've been pretty sick this whole time. We've only been here for a few days, and we actually came here from an overnight train from Da Nang over to here, but we did check out this place called Paradise Cave. It's pretty cool. You actually take a buggy all the way up to it, you do a little bit of a short hike, and then after that little bit of a short hike, it's maybe about 20 minutes walking through where you can see all of these different cool cave stuff, and I'll post some of that in B footage as you guys are watching this. But yeah, this place has been pretty cool. We've only been here for a few days now, and it's been nice. It's a lot less busy than Da Nang, even though Da Nang was pretty chill. It is a little bit harder to focus here, and not a lot of places really have AC, so you're kind of like working outside, which isn't as productive, especially when you have a fever. But yeah, we're about to leave tonight and go over towards Ninh Bình. Once again, we're taking an overnight train, and we're just kind of making our way up to Hanoi, which is the capital in Vietnam, all the way up in the north, and then from Hanoi, we're going to fly out to Hong Kong. So yeah, the next couple weeks is a little crazy here, but definitely enjoying these awesome views. Now I wanted to get into kind of the background story of Jellycubes, just because I think that it can be a pretty inspiring and motivating story for people that are watching this. And I hope that if you're someone that has wanted to do something or launch your own project or launch your own business or just like strive to do something you're uncomfortable with, I hope this story can be a little motivating for you. So just to get into a very, very brief background that I brought up a lot, got into crypto in 2017, started with an Ethereum mining rig. I had like 6 graphics cards set up in this like wooden frame mining rig that I had in my dorm room in college where I got free electricity, which was pretty clutch. And at that time, I'd never really spent a ton of time deep diving crypto. I mostly got into it because I had a friend that was like, hey, my dad's doing this and this seems pretty interesting. Do you want to get involved? And that's kind of how I got involved. That's how I got introduced. And then for those that don't know, 2017, around December is when Bitcoin hit 19K. And I think I had gotten in around when Ethereum was maybe like $200, $300, and then it ran up to all the way to like $1,400, something like that. And I wish I had more money at the time to really capitalize on it, but regardless, I had this mining rig. And then fast forward, I didn't really pay too much attention. I was in the middle of school and doing all this other stuff. Like I had a job and I was like doing pickleball, and it was just a bunch of different stuff that I was doing. And I had also started a business where I was just buying and selling stuff. So I had scaled that up pretty big. I was doing shoes, swimming pools, electronics, different arbitrage opportunities where I could find different deals, bulk buy a bunch of it, or find something that was hard for people to get their hands on and then sell it. I had gotten into collectibles, Oreos, golden coins, like just absolutely a crazy time period. And it was always funny because whenever I got new packages in, my roommates at the time were always so curious what I was getting myself into this time. But regardless, it was around 2020 when COVID happened, and all the Wall Street bet stuff was happening with GameStop and AMC, that I started paying a lot more attention to crypto again. Because crypto was starting to gain a little bit more traction. And at the time, there wasn't nearly as many resources as there is now when it comes to really educating yourself on this stuff. And there were so many new things coming out like DeFi and yield farming and all these other things that, I just kind of went on a journey of figuring out and discovering. And it made me realize that I saw a lot of opportunity in this space. I knew I wanted to work in this space. I loved the aspect that it was completely online, and that it was one of those situations where if you were willing to kind of put yourself through the fire and teach yourself stuff, that there was a lot of opportunities there. So yeah, got into the crypto scene more, started learning a lot. Around this time, NFTs really started to take off as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a crazy opportunity in this. My sister is an artist. I'm part of all of these different, what they called cook groups at the time, AKA alpha groups with crypto. But I was in all these different groups that you had to spend a ridiculous amount of money every month to be in, to have this information. And that's when the idea of creating something like Jellycubes really came to my mind. Hey, my sister, can you make some cool art for this? We can have some sort of alpha group. The membership can be the NFT. The royalties will be better than the current, subscription models to Patreon, all that stuff. And that's really where the idea first started. Now, what's interesting at the time is the space was so early that there were still a lot of things that you had to figure out that I wasn't sure of, blah, 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 blah. And one of the things that I had realized is I really wanted to create my own brand first of who I am and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve. And really through that brand creation, also educate other people on all the different things that I've been learning the hard way when getting into the space. How to yield farm, impermanent loss, just all these things at the time. And that's when I realized I needed to make a YouTube channel and really educate other people on how to do all this stuff, and at the same time make a brand and name for myself so that in the future I could launch something like Jellycubes and really have a community and an alpha group like that I had experienced when it came to flipping and buying and selling other things in the kind of the Web 2 space. And it was funny because my sister at the time was very hesitant to make any sort of art, just because there was such a negative connotation with NFTs at the time. I mean, it still is in all honesty. But I was finally able to convince her, and that's when we were really trying to figure out a concept of what we actually wanted our project to be, what we wanted our project to look like. And and I've talked about it very briefly in the past, but one of the big things that we really cared about was making something that was OG, something that was unique, something that had a really cool IP to it, something with personality and colorful and almost cartoonish, right? We wanted to do something that was fun and relatable and wasn't just copying the metas of, hey, here's another ape, or here's another ninja, or here's another, of the same 10 concepts that everyone was doing. And at the time, it was kind of a risky decision to make something like that because people were so used to the same concepts, and those were the concepts that were selling in a sense. So to create something just completely different was actually something that was not a lot of project founders were really willing to do, because why take the risk and gamble when these other ape derivatives are just selling out every single time? But regardless, I knew I wanted to make a project that was different in every aspect and really innovative and represented what I wanted the project and what I wanted the group to be about. I even from the beginning, even through all these changes and adaptations and having more realizations, whatever the case is, ever since the beginning, I knew I wanted to create something that just was about positivity, pushing yourself, furthering yourself, doing innovative things, not following the path, being your own trendsetter, breaking barriers, being your own person, rather than just trying to fit into this mold and this path that everyone just seems to be trying to follow. And it was this unconventionality with the art of Jellycubes that was really special. And I also wanted to make something that my sister would enjoy making, because I didn't want my sister to just make art that she wouldn't have a connection to. I wanted her to actually enjoy the process of what she was making. And for those that don't know, with these Jellycubes, they're these silly little translucent, colorful, cartoonish creatures that have all these personalities. But the actual concept is derived from a game, Dungeons and Dragons, where they have this gelatinous cube. And this gelatinous cube is just like this ball of toxic, acidic ooze that just wants to hug different adventurers that go into these dungeons. And when they hug them, they dissolve into the bodies, and that's why you have skeletons and weapons and all this stuff stuck inside the gelatinous. So the whole entire Jellycubes concept was derived and inspired from this sort of silly but deadly creature that would sort of have all of these different items stuck to them. And instead of sticking to just sort of a fantasy theme with just swords and stuff like that, I personally wanted to have different traits in there that people could relate to and be fun. Or like a plunger, for example, just silly things like that where people could look at the art and it could come to life a little bit more, and it could be a lot more silly and people could maybe relate to some of the different traits. And it was cool when we were actually, designing this, we would go back and forth, hey, we should make this skin or we should make this trait. And it turned out that we made kind of this whole entire background ecosystem of lore that a lot of people in the project still don't know about. Like every single skin represents a block or a family, and each of these skins actually had a personality to them. So for example, the Cubambe, which we also gave names to all of these different blocks or all these different skins, was the ape skin. And this ape skin, if you had one of these, represented kind of like the silliness, degen type individual. And even all the different traits were named based on the personality of the Jellycube. So for example, if the eyes had laser eyes, it wasn't called laser eyes in the metadata, but instead it was focused. And if you had laser eyes as your Jellycube, it meant your Jellycube was focused. And we would do different things as well, where like the plunger didn't just say plunger, but it meant that your Jellycube was a plumber. And the different items that were inside, such as tacos, meant that your Jellycube liked tacos. So it was funny, we had made all this lore with it and these different names and these different depthness. Like we even had 6 different background traits that are all rare, and all 6 of these represent a different trait that is important to the Jellycubes concept. So for example, we have one that's a dungeon and it represents grind. We have one that is like a money tree, which represents growth. We have one that has all these Jellycubes in the background, which represents family. We have one that represents love. Like it's all these different things that really represented the Jellycubes in the core that were all kind of architectured in the background. So yeah, a lot of people don't really know about this stuff. What I've realized is, even though I had fun as a creator coming up with all these different things, that the vast majority of people really just didn't care about that stuff. They more so cared about just owning it and being part of the group and the alpha and making money. But at the time, there was actually a lot of thought that went into these different things as we were building out this collection. And like I said, we're not really, an art-focused project, but there was a lot that went behind this. So now that you guys are fully caught up in the background story, we now fast forward to a couple weeks before this actual launch of Jellycubes, and it was kind of one of these situations where at the time there was a lot of legal uncertainty with launching a project, and there were all these different projects getting sued, and I'm in the United States, which is like the worst place to be when it comes to this sort of stuff. And a couple weeks before launching the project, I decided, hey, I'm just gonna move to Portugal. My mom was born there. I should easily be able to get my dual citizenship. My grandparents are going to be there anyway, so they can help me get started and onboarded. There's like way less legal concern. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna take a chance here. I'm gonna sell everything I own. I'm gonna sell my car. I'm gonna sell my inventory from the business. I'm gonna pretty much just uproot my whole life, say bye to everyone, and just go and just send it and like try to launch this project. And at the time, like I said, this was like a pretty crazy decision because of everything that has gone into this and just like the risk of trying to launch something and uprooting your whole life for something that you didn't even know was going to work. I was pretty confident that it was going to work and I was confident in myself, but you just never knew in the space and the market was turning and it was just a crazy decision, but I decided to do it. So I sold everything. All I had left was my backpack, which I put some stuff into my backpack, and a suitcase with my clothes, and then I literally packed up and left for Portugal. And I went, and like looking back, this was like such a crazy, spontaneous thing that's totally not me, because it was one of those situations where I really left everything on the line and just decided to just full send something, which was an NFT project, which is like super degen looking back. Like this was just a crazy move. So when I get to Portugal, guys, this is when everything really just starts to go absolutely wrong for me. First thing that happened is that my suitcase with all my stuff in it, with like my whole life in it, gets lost at the airport, and they can't find my suitcase. So I have no idea where my suitcase is. We then get to my grandparents' house, which is like the super old house in the middle of nowhere in Portugal. And I've got roosters waking me up at 5 in the morning. I've got dogs barking all night. I've got the church bell ringing every single 30 minutes, like ding, 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 like super, super loud. There's no food for me to eat nearby. My grandparents, bless their heart, and they were so kind during this whole process, were like driving me crazy, constantly asking if I needed stuff when I was just trying to focus. And I'm just like in this super stressed out environment, and it's like it gets like 10 times worse. So my grandparents' house is super old, right? And I'm going all over Portugal with my grandpa, trying to take care of this paperwork for this citizenship thing that I did not do nearly enough research on. And while we're doing this, every single place you can't get anything done in Portugal, by the way, guys. If you're trying to get paperwork done in Portugal, good luck. Every time we went somewhere, they would tell us to go somewhere else. And then when we went there, they would say, no, you have to go there. And we were like, we were just there and they told us to go here. Long story short, I'm with my grandpa. He's way too old to be driving in Portugal. He's stopping in the middle of the road and people are honking at him. I don't know how we didn't get into an accident. He's like, we're trying to like pick up a new computer for me and I can't find like a good computer. And then all of a sudden, you know, all this paperwork and all this visa stuff's not working out, and it's just this crazy situation. So I eventually find a computer, and this is now Wednesday, and we are launching a project on Saturday. So this is like some last minute stuff, and everything is continuing to go wrong. My suitcase has been missing for weeks. I plug in my computer, and because the electrical outlets are not properly configured in the super old house, my computer and my laptop get surged and completely die and get destroyed. So now all of a sudden, all my files, everything on my computer, all this preparation, my laptop, all this stuff, it literally stops working. And I can't turn it on. I can't figure out what is going wrong. I later find out it's because it was an electrical surge that destroyed all my stuff. So now I still don't have my suitcase after weeks. I finally was able to get a computer, and my computer and my laptop surged and blew up. I can no longer stay at my grandparents' house, so now I have no idea where to go. My visa stuff isn't being able to figure it out. And then my car that I was in the process of selling in the United States, they won't give my dad the money because of some sort of paperwork that I didn't sign in person. And I needed some fiat money at the time because I was spending all this money on all this crazy stuff and I just needed fiat money at the time. So it's like I took this massive risk to go all the way to Portugal, sold all my stuff to start a project that I didn't even know was gonna work, uprooted my whole life weeks before I left, and now everything is going wrong. I need to find a new computer. I need to find a new place to stay. I still don't have any of my clothes. My cash isn't checking, and I am literally on the brink of just breaking down in tears and stress because everything is just not going right, and I have so many things on my plate. And I'm in a different country where I don't understand anything and I can't communicate with people. And it was just, and I'm not sleeping because of the roosters and all this stuff. It was just an absolutely insane time period. And then, like I said, my grandparents and my family were trying to help and talk to me. I'm like, please don't talk to me. I need to focus here. I need to get these different things done. So absolutely insanely stressful time. And what's insane is that was Wednesday. And I just start like breaking. I said earlier I was about to break down. I did break down. And I just start breaking down and crying which I very, very rarely do, because I was just under so much stress and I didn't know what to do. And we had already delayed the mint of Jellycubes, and it was just a crazy time period, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, maybe I messed up. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Like maybe coming to Portugal was the wrong decision, and maybe like launching this project was the wrong decision. And like nothing is going my way. And what I told you guys is just like barely any of the story. There's so many different things that were going wrong this whole time. And I like still can't get my citizenship thing, and I'm just like breaking down. And for those that don't know, I've said it in a few other of my videos, like I've been on this religious journey where I, have been trying to figure out what I believe, what my faith is in, all this stuff. And it was kind of crazy. At this point in time, I hadn't really prayed to God or anything like that for years. That's a whole other video. But regardless, I just start praying. And I'm just like, God, like, please help me in this situation. And then after I had that prayer, I called my mom, and she'll like still attest to this. She had never heard me talk like that on the phone. I was like, Mom, I need you to do everything in your power to find me a place to stay. I was like, I can't even go over all this other stuff that's happening to me right now. I just need you to do me this one thing. I don't know how you're gonna do it. I need you to find me a place to stay. I need that place tomorrow, because that was Thursday and then Saturday was the mint. So I was like, I need this place as soon as possible. I was like, just make it happen. So this is what's crazy, guys. Literally on Thursday, which was the next day, all of my problems got fixed in the same day. My mom had just talked to a friend that has a house in Portugal that just 2 days before, that for whatever reason this month, she hadn't rent on Airbnb, which she always hasn't rented. So now all of a sudden I had the place. My suitcase that had been lost for weeks at this point somehow gets delivered to my grandparents' house, fully packed, so I didn't even have to repack anything. I could literally just take my suitcase and go to the next place. I was able to find a computer replacement, which was hard to do for whatever reason. I don't know if there was a shortage or whatever was going on, but I was able to find my computer replacement. My dad was finally able to talk to the car dealership guy, and I was able to get my cash deposited into my account. The visa thing never figured itself out, but all of a sudden, all of these problems fixed itself. And this is the really crazy part, and I've got to bring out my phone to read this to you guys. So about 5 years before this, like freshman year of college, I had this class that was like actually a theater class. I had to take it for whatever reason. And in this class at the end of the year, we did a pretty cool assignment where we actually had to write a letter to ourselves. And in 4 years, she would actually mail that letter back to us. And I had completely forgotten that I had done this. And it was interesting because it had actually been 5 years because COVID had delayed everything 1 year. And what was crazy is after all of these things fixed itself and after all these problems magically got fixed in the same day, at the end of the night, my dad sends me a letter and he's like, hey, Jason, like you got this letter in, here's a picture of it. I didn't read it, but just so you know, this came in. And I'll read you guys this letter. So just like to catch you guys up and summarize everything. Wanted to launch this project, took a big risk going to Portugal. Everything goes wrong. Everything magically fixes itself. Super stressed out. This is now Thursday. We have the mint on Saturday. And this is the letter that I got that I had written to myself 5 years before that literally got delivered to my parents' house the same day that everything fixed itself. I said, dear myself, this is a pretty cool assignment because so much has happened in the last year, let alone the next 4 of my life. Life has been good. I'm hoping to get a job at Chima soon, which is like this Brazilian steakhouse. And low-key still think about this girl at the gym named Shelby that I have not seen in months. You'll probably be laughing at that, which I actually, when I read that, was laughing, so it was hilarious that I knew I would laugh at that. But I wonder how much life is going to change. And I was like, I still love it in North Carolina, but I can't help but feel out of place. I always feel different and weird, even around my closest friends. I guess sometimes I simply just don't fit in my head. So I have some speculation/hopes of what has happened, but I don't want to disappoint future Jason too much, haha. I hope that the grind never stopped, that my ambition is burning hotter than hell, and that maybe, just maybe, I own my own business. And then I was also saying, I also hope that I scuba dive in Australia and that my hunger is chilled because I'm still eating 6 times a day, which was true. I was like always starving. But that's like a side note that I had put in here. But most of all, I hope that I do not forget who I am, God being first, and my dream to change the world. If you have lost your drive because of stuff that has happened, stop being a bitch. Don't stop fighting for your dreams. Remember your quotes, Jason. It doesn't matter how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Life is going to suck sometimes, but you aren't me if you gave up. Go out again if you did and try harder than ever. P.S. Do not forget why you started. You were meant for something great. don't forget to call your family, and don't compromise money for them or God. And like, bro, when I said I was crying, I was crying. Like, I had gone, this was the most stressful time of my life. It's still emotional, like thinking back on this story. It was such an emotional time of my life. I took this giant leap that was massively uncomfortable. I'm going to finish the rest of this on my phone because my GoPro died. But yeah, it was just crazy because everything was going wrong. Nothing was going right. I was so uncomfortable, took this massive risk, and then all of a sudden, all in one day, everything fixed itself. And I get this letter that I wrote to myself 5 years before saying not to quit and to remember God and all these things. And it was just crazy because, like I had said, I hadn't had a relationship with God at this point for almost 2-3 years. So it was just insane. I had this moment of like, wow, like this was all meant to work out. Like like this has all been part of the process. This has all been part of the journey. And it was just so crazy because I was even talking about, man, I hope I own a business. And I did at the time, but it was just like a solopreneur thing. And really Jellycubes was like the first major business where like other people were getting involved a lot more heavily. So it was just kind of this crazy moment where it was this roller coaster of emotions, a roller coaster of things going wrong, just like really trying to fight through, and then ultimately coming on the other side. And I can probably go more in detail into this story another time. I don't have too much battery life left, so I kind of want to wrap this up. By a couple of days, like that was Thursday night, I read that letter. Friday, I moved into the new place, set up my computer, and Saturday we did the mint of Jellycubes, Saturday, July 23rd. And it was crazy. We launched for $100, and within a couple days, we were at $800. And it's been this amazing experience throughout this past almost 2 years now of running this project. And there's been so much to learn and so much growth and so many ups and downs and struggles and joys and all of this stuff. But it's been just this incredible journey of learning and growing and developing and figuring out who I am and who I want to be and helping other people get to where they want to be too. And I don't know where this story is going to end. I don't know like the whole book of where Jellycubes is going to go. But whenever I have frustrations or just whatever the case is, I remember like this story and I read back on my letter and I just have faith and belief that I'll work out into something incredible, and it will continue to make me a better person, and it will continue to help push me to make the people around me better as well. So yeah, that's like the story of Jellycubes, guys. Like it started off as just this idea of creating some sort of group, some sort of community, some sort of innovative project, having my sister be the artist of this, creating this awesome community, and really just putting everything on the line to try to make this project happen. Really just full sending it, having all these things go wrong, having all these things correct itself, going on this roller coaster, and now we're almost 2 years into this. So yeah, I hope this story can inspire other people out there. Not that many people know about it, and there are some obvious things that I'm missing. Just as I'm trying to do this live, it's hard to, remember everything and give all the details and make it relatively concise. But yeah, I hope that this story can really help motivate other people that have been kind of on the sidelines and, a little scared to try something, to just go out and try it. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch y'all later.